Today I'm going to be showing you how to take this piece of garbage and turn it into a super fun upcycled toxic waste bottle that you can use to decorate your home. All the ingredients that you're going to need are listed in the description box below, so check to make sure what you need, gather all your supplies, and let's get started. Alright, so this is a fun project that I like to do with friends. So if you have someone that can come over and hang out with you, make a big bunch of them all at once, hang out. And so I've got a ton of different styles of these labels. And for this tutorial, I'm going to be doing the toxic waste bottle. It's one of my most popular bottles at farmers markets, especially for the kids. They think it's really cool because it does glow in the dark. Now, you can get all of these labels for purchase in my online shop on quillcastro.podio.com. However, I am going to be giving you guys a freebie. Since I'm doing the toxic waste one, you can print out a four design page, and as you can see, I'm ripping apart my pages. I have different styles here, but I'm just preparing them all at once so that you see how I do it. I tear it, I don't cut it. And the reason that I do this is because it leaves a frayed edge, and when I go in for the next step and I start aging them, it looks a little bit more authentic, and I really like that unique style, because that means every bottle is going to have a slightly different looking label, and it's really cool watching people kind of gravitate towards the styles that they like the best. So go ahead and look in the description, go download your freebie, and then start preparing your paper, and we can go ahead and get started. Here is one way to age the paper. We are going to soak a couple of the labels that we have in some cold coffee. I like to just use coffee that's left over from the morning. You're going to want to make sure that you don't use hot coffee because it may dissolve your paper or even just remove the ink, and then you won't be able to see the cute little label. I'm making sure that they also don't touch each other while they're in the coffee. You can just spread them out nicely on a large baking dish, casserole dish, or glass pan. And you're going to want to leave these for about 30 minutes up to an hour so they can really soak in that color. Just check on them periodically to make sure that they're not sticking to each other. And then add a little bit of coffee over the top, and we'll be ready to move on to our next method of aging paper. For this next step, we are going to go outside, so go in and get your shoes, get your fluffy shoes, get your shoes on, get your fluffy shoes on, come on! The second way I like to age paper is just by burning it around the edges. I like to move the paper itself rather than my lighter. Just make sure that you do this outside and be really careful with your hands. As you can see here, I'm just holding it in such a way that when I turn the paper, the part that has the flame on it is actually moving away from my body, and then by the time I come full circle, my hand is going to be touching the end that's already cooled off. I hope that makes sense how I'm describing it, but basically I'm rotating the fire side away from my hand. Okay, you're seeing what I'm doing. Even if I can't explain it with words, I think you get the picture. But in order to make the fire stop burning down, see where that orange line is? I basically will put the fire on it and then I shake it ferociously until that orange part disappears in the air. You're definitely going to want to make sure that you do this outside because it will smell like burning, obviously, inside the house for quite a while. Now that these have been soaking for about an hour, they should have picked up enough coffee that it should look a little bit darker and you should still be able to see the design on it. I'm just taking them out very slowly, draining a little bit of the coffee off of it, and then placing them carefully on a towel to dry. Now I've got 2 sets of labels that are all ready to go. Here are the ones that are completely dry, and I actually burnt the edges of already for the coffee stained ones. So you can see how those look. And then on this side, I've got ones that I left white and I burnt the edges on. I think they're both equally beautiful. So it's just up to your preference. I just have to go through and do some damage control. If anything looks like this, see how it kind of like burnt the whole side of his head off? I probably won't use that for a bottle. I'll just use it in like a collage, but let's use the toxic waste one. Now it's time to actually paint the bottles themselves. If you remember from the beginning of my video, I was outside spray painting a bunch of bottles at once just to get them primed and ready to go for when I was ready to start painting and decorating them. I highly recommend using a spray gesso, which is going to prime your bottles and make it easier for the paint to stick to them when you're ready to decorate. If you can't find a spray one, you can find either like at Hobby Lobby or Walmart a paint version of the gesso. But if you skip this step, it's just your paint's just not going to stick. It's going to be a waste. So since I have toxic waste as the bottle label that I'm going to use, I'm going to want it to just be a white bottle, and I'm actually just skipping painting it with acrylic paint and just going right in and doing the glowy paint. The glow-in-the-dark paint that I'm using here is called Glow Away. I suggest this one just because I've tested it out and I know for sure that this brand specifically glows in the dark, and some other ones that I've tried in the past don't actually work. So if you can find this one, I highly recommend it. Not sponsored. If you are going to paint it a different color other than white, you're going to want to do at least 2 or 3 layers to make sure that you really cover everything. Once your bottle is dry, you can go ahead and take some Modge Podge or some Elmer's glue and paint it onto the back of your bottle label. Once my label is nice and attached to my bottle, I like to smooth it out, make sure there's no little ripples or bubbles in the paper. And a hack that I use is I actually like take my palm and I kind of rub it over and over, and that seems to get almost all of the air out. It looks really nice like that. And then I just take my brush and whatever Modge Podge is left over, I use to kind of seal up those edges and prevent them from lifting up. Next, we're going to prepare a cork so that we can seal our bottles and make them look more like a potion. I've just got the lid to a regular plastic container here to protect my surface, and I've cut some corks in half. So you're going to want to use wine corks that are cut in half because it's going to be a lot less trimming. I'm using a hobby knife to trim the corks down so they fit into the bottleneck of the beer bottle, because the beer bottlenecks are so much narrower than a wine bottle. Here I'm just marking lines where I'm going to cut, which I don't typically do because I just eyeball it. However, I want you guys to see my method of like the location I'm going for by using this red marker. So you don't have to do this, but if it's easier just to give you a guide to go off of, feel free to. I'm just basically marking out how far down I want the cork to go into the bottle and about how thin I need the neck of the cork to be in order to fit into the neck of the bottle. Okay, so I've loosened up about the area that I want to start removing pieces of cork from, and I'm just taking tiny slivers off the edges until I get to a point where I think that it's small enough. It's a lot easier to take more away than it is to mess up your cork and have to start all over again. So do this in small increments and periodically grab your bottle and see if it fits into the neck of it or not, or if you just need to even it out because it might be kind of lopsided. Just check in every once in a while. This one seems to be coming along fairly well. Once your cork is trimmed to size, now you're going to add a little bit of glue. Here I am using a Elmer's glue bottle, but I found that tacky glue actually works a lot better. So whatever you have on hand, just go with it. When I put the cork in the bottle, I like to twist it down. That seems to help give it quite a good snug fit and even out all of the glue. It's okay if it squirts out a little. There you go. The last step to complete our bottle is totally optional, but I like to add a little bit of wax to the top. I just take these little wax pellets that I get from Michael's. You can use different types of wax, but I find the pellets are the easiest for me. This is a huge mix set that I got, and it was only $11, which is super great. You can probably find them at Hobby Lobby too. Here I'm just lighting a little Tealight candle so that I can warm up my wax with a little spoon. You can get these spoons from Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and they do have sets online where there's like a little stand for them so you don't have to hold it. You can just put the Tealight candle under the little stand and then rest the spoon on top of it. I usually only use like 3 or 4 pellets, and it does make quite a bit extra, so I kind of like that because then since it dries so quickly, when you pour it off the spoon, you can not have to scrape it down. You just pour it and then there's a little bit left over at the bottom of the spoon. I hope that makes sense what I'm talking about. But I'm just gonna sit here for 20,000 quadrillion hours and wait for this to melt. Sometimes I like to use a little stir stick when it's just taking too long, and I'll like press down the little pellets towards the bottom. So I'm going to do that real quick and just stir it up a little bit. I just use a stir stick that I got from like a coffee at a restaurant. You can just probably use anything wood. I wouldn't recommend plastic, so it'll probably melt. Looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to grab my bottle and just slowly pour the wax over that cork in kind of like a circular motion. And by doing the circular motion, I'm kind of pressing on the outer edge of the cork, and then it's going to start making that wax drip down the sides. It's okay if it drips too far down. You're going to want to wait until it dries. Here I'm just adding a tiny bit extra because I think that it would look nice with a couple more drips on it. And then it's gonna dry probably in about like a minute. Now that our bottle is completely finished, You're welcome to go ahead and add a little bit more of that glowy paint over the top of the label. And this is highly recommended to leave it without a spray if you're doing this variation. But if you're using a different label and you don't want it to be glow in the dark, I highly recommend spraying it with a clear gloss so that the paint does not chip.
All right, now you have an awesome decor piece that you can put on your mantle or bookshelf and even give it to a friend. This is super fun for Halloween, but it also looks nice all year round. If you got a really good amount of value out of this and you think you're going to do this craft, please give me a like and a subscribe. I'm really trying to meet my goal of 10,000 Gotrillion followers by the end of 2025, and it will mean a lot to get your support. Thank you once again, and I hope you have an amazing day. See you next time.